everyone, and welcome to the Press On podcast. So, we are going to be your hosts. So, I'm Chelsea from Nailed It by Chelsea.
And I'm Jerri from Dippy Cow Nails. No logo,
And
just pretend.
I feel like it's a really long time coming and just what everyone needs, because myself and Jerri have been best nail friends for years. And let's admit it, we are the OG Press On nail artists. And I feel like
we're the oldies.
we need to give the people what they deserve and need. Why have we started this podcast, Jerri?
Why have we started it, Chelsea? So it was something I'd been looking at doing, and I brought it up to you, and you're like, let's do it together. And I was like, oh my God, you'd want to do that with me? Like, yes. I personally listen to podcasts all the time when I'm working. Obviously, part of being a press-on artist is working on your own, and it's like you're constantly listening to podcasts. And some of them, that may be more nail aligned are still a little bit separate from us, because what we do is so niche. It's like we don't have that, like obviously Chelsea, you have like face-to-face clients as well, but generally as a press-on artist you're working on your own, and that can be quite isolating. So having like something, it's just totally different, isn't it? You don't have that interaction.
Absolutely. And I feel like there needed to have been a podcast that is just nail related, but like a bit more like the press on side of stuff, because you don't really hear about it like at all. So I feel like having like some nail friends that you can pop on in the background while you're working is just going to be like the best platform.
I think, like, so obviously, like you've said, Chelsea, we've been friends for so many years now.
I know.
Like, we'll go into our history in this industry in a bit, so that everyone, if you don't know us already, you have a bit more of an insight. But Chelsea is literally the OG of press on nails. She's been doing this, what is it, 11 years, 12 years, 13, something?
10 and a half years, coming up on 11 years now.
That's insane. That's insane.
How long have you been doing it now?
7 or 8. I lose track. You lose track after like 3, don't you?
Yeah.
Chelsea, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
I am Chelsea. I'm a Scorpio. I am a kind of a new mum. I mean, she's like 15 months old now. So is that a toddler now? Like,
yeah, I think so. 12 months, I think, as a toddler.
Oh, God. So I'm a toddler mum. I recently got married. I feel very grown up. So I didn't really like, you hear like some people that start doing nail art when they're like 10. I never really did all that, but I was fairly good at art. I did art at A level. I did like textiles and media. So I was always a little bit more creative and like that kind of side of stuff. But I never even like nails never came into it really. I wanted to be a primary school teacher. So I did that. I went off to university. I graduated. I've done a year of teaching. Like I can actually go back into teaching at any point if I wanted to. Like I want to do something a bit more creative, and I want to do it in my own time. And that's kind of what works for me. At the time when I kind of like dropped out of teaching and went into press on nails, I mean, I was quite lucky that I'd already established an Etsy shop. So once I was at uni, this is like 2012, I started selling some press on nails on eBay and Etsy for like £3. But no one ever really believed in me when I had the idea. And the only reason I had the idea is because I went to uni. No one could afford to get their nails done.
No.
My nails were so badly bitten that every time I went to a salon, they genuinely refused because it was too small to work on. And I went into like Boots and Superdrug to just try some press on nails on, because I just wanted to look nice on a night out. And even I know that they are advertised as short press on nails, but they weren't. And to be honest, a lot of short press on nails are genuinely triple the length of my natural nails. Yeah. When you have bitten nails, it is a trauma to a short natural nail. So it's even half the size of that. So there's not many brands. I'd say Painted Desert is the smallest and shortest that I've found. But other brands, I know they say, oh, extra short, but no, that's on me. That's extra long. I started doing nail art on like my friends. So they'd come over, we'd like pre-drink, I'd do their nails. And I remember them saying, like, why don't you do these nail art on yourself? And I was like, well, I bite my nails. It's really embarrassing. I can't. There's no room for it. So yeah, I got those stupid swatch sticks that only have 0 to 9. I didn't realize. And I just started painting on them just to wear for myself on nights out. And then my friend said, you should sell these. Like, these are really, really cool. I remember doing like one little design. I put it on eBay. And honestly, this stupid design, it was rubbish looking back. But again, we didn't have nail brushes. I was literally using like a hair clip to do this little skull and like an Aztec-y design. It took me about 5 hours. I listed it on eBay for $2.99 and it sold after like a week, and it went to Italy. And I was like,
Italy?
well, yeah. But I remember it so vividly because I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, someone's bought something I've made.
So obviously you still do press on nails.
Yeah,
but you also are a in-person nail tech now. You take on clients, but you also do products. So like you've branched off.
yeah.
And I think probably one of the questions that will I imagine will come up from people, because it's obviously the same for me. We both don't just do press on nails now. Doing something for nearly in my case nearly 10 years, for you over 10 years, that's a lot. It's a lot of time to only do one thing. And like, there's, why would you stay still? Like, you need to constantly evolve, and pushing yourself and developing yourself is just so important. It doesn't mean you don't have a, like, the press on nail side of things is my first love when it comes to all of this. But like, I imagine the same for you. It's like, well, you just, you get itchy feet. You want to do something more. You want to develop yourself in other ways.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, the main reason that I wanted to go into actually doing nails on people was it first started literally just before lockdown. It was like January 2020. I had signed for a shop because I don't know, like, there was something in me where I was like, well, I do enjoy doing the press on nails, but I kind of feel like I want to take this into more of like a client thing, to have that feedback straight away. I wanted that conversation with people again. And I signed for this shop, then lockdown hit, and my account just blew up. It was so unexpected. It was unlike anything I could ever have imagined. And I made a lot of money. And I think then I was like, I need to be sensible here and put that money to good use. And again, as people who love our businesses, could I have bought designer handbags, gone on a million trips around the world? Could I have bought a house? Yeah. I had a lot of money to kind of play with, and I was thinking, where are these investments going to go back in? Because there's only so much I can do making nails for customers. I can only make a handful of sets a day, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So where do I put this money into, kind of like having different avenues? And then I thought about products and different services and stuff like that. And the only reason I then went into decor is because Sean, my husband, he was made redundant from his job from lockdown, and he loved drawing on his iPad. So he started up a print shop, and we just started thinking about print ideas. And then I said, oh, well, when I eventually start opening a salon again, I'd love to decorate it, but there's nothing out there. And we worked together on some prints. So the only reason that kind of happened is because Sean was made redundant as well. It was like a big spiral of different projects. Like, so that kind of spiraled it. And then when I did the prints and the gallery walls, everybody loved it. And I've sold thousands and thousands of prints, and to see them in people's salons is amazing. Like, I love that. And when I saw that, I was like, let's do more accessories. Let's get brushes. Let's get aprons. Let's do trays. Like, it was just so much fun for me. But I knew it had to be different. I knew it had to be my style. I couldn't just buy something and just whack my name on it without much care. Like, I do love just sitting down and like actually hand making something still. So as much as I love doing the press on nails, like going into more like decor and interior and stuff, I do love that as well.
I mean, so if anyone hasn't seen your work before, or your general style, like, how would you describe it?
very nostalgic, I wanted it to be like you're just going back in time to a simpler time of just a bit more like a millennials throwback. Definitely very Y2K. And my whole shop and studio now just looks exactly like my bedroom 15 years ago. That I wanted to keep it fun, keep it, quite charming. And what I like about it now that I've made a studio that clients can come in is that everybody who walks in looks around my room and they're like, oh my God, I had that. Yeah. Oh my God, is that Hey Arnold? Like, it's such a throwback and it makes people smile.
Your branding is so unique. Like, how many people are going to be able to have a nail tech that they go to where they get that kind of like environment? It's just not going to happen. And that's just, I mean, that's priceless. That sets you apart so much.
But tell everyone about your journey as well, because I'm so interested in this.
I hate talking about myself so much. I'm such an introvert. I just like, even being on a camera is just to me. Talking, I hate it. Like, but because I can sound so confident, people don't think that I am.
No,
but
you can't tell at all.
I know, which is so funny because I mean, after this, I will need to probably not talk to anyone for 2 days.
Yeah.
Because it's just so exhausting, isn't it? Like, as much as I love like chatting with people I get on with, when you're an introvert and like having social anxiety, it's like, poof, it can be overwhelming. And but that's a really good conversation to have in itself, because I think creatives so often lean that way. The amount of people I speak to who are like, I can't show up on social media, I'm a massive introvert, or I can't go to this event because I just can't do that. And I totally get it. Like, and to be able to connect with people that are like, it's not weird, it's just who you are, and that's fine. And this kind of career like really suits us because we don't have to be face to face with people. Like, perfect.
We were only talking the other day, weren't we, about how like shyness isn't celebrated. Like, why does everyone have to be this confident person? Like, we do mask a lot of the time, and we put on this big act. I'm exactly the same as you. I'm like an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
As soon as I go home, that's it. Like, oh my God, I will crash.
Yeah.
But like shyness and introversion, like, they are important personality types that we need in the world. They give balance. Like, it's so important.
And I think like the problem is that when you are an introvert, opportunities will often pass you by because you aren't the loud one, and you don't want to make a fuss, or if someone does something you don't necessarily want to say something, and it can be difficult. But I just hope that people like feel comfortable that this is a space sort of two massive introverts doing things that is really outside of our comfort zone. But so I guess I'll talk about myself a little bit, but I mean, if anyone wants to know more, I've been on a few episodes of like Clawgasmic with Shan, so I probably go into a bit more detail about some of my journey there. So feel free to listen to that, because I won't bore you all with my life story. But so I have a 3-year-old daughter. I'm trying to think, like, career wise, what would anyone want to know about? So I went through, normal school, college. I went to university, I did film studies, got a degree in that. Didn't really do anything with it, but I went into a job at our local newspaper in their advertising sales, like literally like a physical newspaper. I would be trying to sell advertising space to the small businesses in my area. I then went into a role at a social media management agency. Again, I was in sales, which again is probably like, well, you're not very introverted if you're doing sales. Again, I can just sound like I'm talking, like I know what I'm talking about, but deep down I was like so out of my comfort zone. Like, oh my God, like pitching to some of the world's biggest companies, like, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is awful. It was great because it was a team, like we were all like similar age, mid early 20s. Like, we just had so much fun. Like, we would play ping pong at our lunchtime, and
that's cool.
It was so fun. Like, just it was a really, really good time. But also it was a stress because obviously I had like targets to meet, and because we were such a young team, and because we were all so close, there was this immense pressure to make sure that I was performing so that everyone would get paid. And it was like, this is a lot. And like,
Yeah.
I would have like I'd get an upset stomach a lot. I get like stress IBS, and it would flare up like all the time. And it was like, why am I bothering? Like, this isn't my business. Like, I care, and I'm taking the stress home with me, and it's literally manifesting physically.
Yeah.
And it just, in this time, like, I've always been a creative. I've always loved painting, and like I did art at college, and did graphic design. Just, I'm just a very artsy person, but only just, kind of as and when. But I had started to get my paints out again, and I like was painting some pop art stuff, and I ended up putting a few bits on Etsy, like, of making like pet portraits, like literally like, in
Wow.
like pop art style. I know, it's weird. And yeah, I just did it because I thought, I enjoy doing this. This is like an outlet. Like, there were some things in my personal life that weren't so fun, and it was like this creative outlet of an evening, whereas like I could
Yeah.
just get like, just like we do with nails now, but
Yeah.
there's something about acrylic on like canvas or on a piece of card. Oh, it's just divine. I could do that forever, I think.
Yeah.
It just sparked my creativity again in a time I think I hadn't had it for so long. And one of my friends that I was working with, she had a pop-up store selling badges, and she was showing me another artist that was at this pop-up store, and they were selling press-on nails, but literally it was just a solid color, like white nails, I think, with just plastic googly eyes that had been stuck on them. Like, literally that was it, just a plain nail with googly eyes.
Wow.
And they were being sold for something like £60. And I was like, what? I mean, even now that's ridiculous. £60. Like, I was like, I think I spent that weekend after, like, diving into it must have been Etsy, and I was seeing like a few little things on there. But obviously, like, this was so long ago. There was probably like
Yeah.
5 artists, like, if
Yeah.
that. And I was like, wow, okay. And yeah, so I listed a few designs on Etsy, and I think it was about a month that they'd probably been active. But I got my first order. Like, I was at home, and I think I was painting some nails after work, and I was like, I had this cha-ching, and I was like, "Eh?" Like, what?
Ooh.
What's that noise? And I looked at my phone, like, it was Etsy, like, "You've got a sale." I was like, "Ah, oh my God."
That's amazing.
And it was to someone in Hawaii. Like, yours was Italy, mine was
Yeah, how
Hawaii.
weird.
So weird.
It's
And
so
then,
cool, isn't it? Like, those things that you remember so vividly. Like, you'll always
so
remember that
vividly.
first order and exactly where it went to.
Yeah, and exactly the design. Yeah,
Yeah.
never forget. And then so I did that order, and then I didn't have anything for a couple of weeks. And then suddenly I just had like a few orders at once. And then fast forward another couple of weeks, and it just started to snowball like really quickly.
Yeah.
And I was literally coming home from, a 9 to 5 job, and I would be working till like 1 in the morning, and I'd be getting up again at 6, 7 o'clock to go to work, and then I would spend all weekend doing it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, there is clearly something here,
Yeah.
but this isn't sustainable, because I was messing things up in both areas. Like, I was
Of
sending
course.
orders to the wrong people. I was just not present at all mentally in my actual job. And I was like, okay, I think, oh my God, I think I'm just going to do it. So yeah, I essentially I quit my job after, I think it was like 4 months. And
Wow.
yeah, I know, it was nuts, and went full time with Dippy Cow Nails, and yeah, I just never looked back. But
That's amazing.
um yeah, it has been amazing. And I feel very fortunate that that has been my full-time job for 7 years. Like, there's never been a period where I had to go and get other work, and I know that that's not always going to be someone's trajectory. Not that that means that there's any failure there at all if that is what you end up doing. The climate is very different now.
Yes, it's
Very
different.
different, like literally in our industry, but obviously also in the world. So yeah, and so since then, in the last couple of years, I've kind of transitioned a little bit more into, well, also offering education. So I have my press on portal, which probably people like will have already heard us speaking about on this anyway. So that's a platform where I help teach others how to enter this industry, basically, and how to do it in a way that's going to actually provide like long-term success. We have
Yeah.
to do the really crappy jobs behind the scenes. We have to get things in place rather than just focusing on, like, posting on social media all the time. That's a part of it. But, you know, I'm trying to pass on the knowledge that I've built over these years so that people can action whatever they want from it and have more of a chance at actually building it to a place that's going to be sustainable. If they want to. Of course, a lot of people just only want to do this kind of thing as a hobby. That's where we started off ourselves, right? And for some people, that's all they'd ever want to do. But yeah, so I've been doing that, and so this year my goal for myself was to step back a bit from press on nail orders for the reasons we said about earlier. It's not for not loving it, it's just that when that's all you've done for 6-7 years, there's
you want to try new things.
Like there's you know, it's not even losing the love for it. I can't quite explain it. It's just wanting to challenge yourself a bit more, because I didn't want to spend another 6 years and be in the same place. Like that to me seems crazy, because I know that I've got the ability to do more, and I've proven that I can do that. But I just had to have a real word with myself to like step out of my comfort zone.
Another thing is that, because some people would say like, oh, why have you stepped away from press-ons? Like, if it's successful for you, then why have you moved away? And it's the same with me going into products and stuff, and it's exactly the same for you going into education. It's not that sales slowed down and we panicked and we thought about another area. It's just the fact that something cropped up and we were like, oh, I quite like doing that.
A passion, like a spark. That's the same spark that got us to do the press-ons in the first place. Has been ignited in something else.
Like with, like I said about like Sean losing his job, and then we doing like some prints, that kind of like was like, oh, I kind of like that. And the same that it would all happen to all of us. But how many DMs over the past few years have we had, like, how did you start your business? Like, literally. You will have had those questions for the past 7 years.
Literally.
So it's not as though this career had never been thought of before. It's just that eventually you think there's a real need for people to know about this. I'm just going to have to be the figurehead to do it.
Well, exactly. I was giving this information out in DMs. I mean, even in the pandemic, like, you know, I didn't do a lot of press-ons in the pandemic because I literally had my daughter in like the first week of lockdown. So I was mainly doing decals. I was still doing press-ons. Like, it was literally the most insane year, obviously, ever. But I did like a 2-3 hour long live where I was teaching people to, you know, completely for free. I was telling them all the things that they can do to start a press-on business. So I've always like wanted to give that advice, because I mean, it doesn't affect us, it doesn't hurt us, as you know, we're top of our game. Like, we don't have to be threatened by passing on some knowledge. Like, we're different people. It's like, you know, someone else coming up doesn't mean that we're going to go down, although of course there is always going to be that, like, that fear of like, am I just not going to be here in 10 more years? Like, that's so stupid. Like, that's just a I don't know, a human insecurity and part of being self-employed, isn't it? Like, when you are responsible for every bit of income you have, that's
you
a lot
want
of pressure.
to protect it, of course.
Absolutely. But I you know, so I'd been having one-to-ones with people last year, and I decided that because I'd been part of like some like memberships that were geared towards social media, like how to use social media better. Anyway, the truth is you can't, so don't worry about it. But I'd been part of a few things, and I was like, I really like how these platforms are, like, you know, they're full of like video resources and like downloadables and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, there is a space here for this to be how I could educate people, because it's all good having one-to-ones, but that was very draining for me, like physically and emotionally, because I could be spending 2 hours 2-3 times a day with these different people, and it's like that was just too much for me. You know, it's not sustainable. So I was like, well, if I could teach people on a larger scale, for probably a lower price point, because obviously a one-to-one is going to be more expensive, I was like, it just made so much sense. So I set about, you know, last summer I started putting into action the Press On portal, which I launched in, was it December or January? And like, I had a goal of, I think 100 sign-ups was my goal for the 12 months, and I reached that within like 3 weeks, I think it was.
My God, I know, so good.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's a really, really lovely community. You know, you are part of it. You've been on there. It's
Yeah.
yeah, just people all around the
Honestly,
world.
yeah, one of the things that I absolutely love, and like we always said about how, yes, we are, expertise in all of our knowledge, but we're still learning every day,
Always.
is that because you have the Slack group. So for anybody that doesn't know, like if you become a member of the portal, obviously, and I'm not being paid to say any of this isn't
Literally
like
not.
that,
She's not.
but it's like a big an MSN group chat, trying to keep it
Yeah,
Y2K. So,
if only.
you can chat to everybody that is also a member of the portal, but there are so many people in there with so much knowledge that
Hmm.
you wouldn't even think about it. Like,
Yep.
there's people who actually take their press on nail marketing and advertising in like craft fairs and doing it
Hmm.
really local, and that's an area that I've never done, like, and that's such a good idea. And I'm thinking, oh my god, yeah, I'd love to do something like that. Like, so many inspiring people on there,
Hmm.
and it just makes you feel so empowered that you're like, yes girls, you are doing it.
Absolutely. And also it's like, it's people's different experiences with using different products as well. Like, or like there could be, the amount of time someone will have an image and they're like, I don't know how to create a look like this, and they'll post
Yeah.
it on there, and if I don't get back to them, other people will have with like literally links to the right products to use, because there's just no gatekeeping, and that's the
No.
lovely part of it. Because like we said earlier, us like handing over knowledge doesn't take away from what we already have. It just helps someone
No.
else on their own path.
Yeah,
Like it,
absolutely.
and it's lovely being able to do that, and it's lovely being, having a group full of people who genuinely like really, really appreciate each other. Like I was not
Yeah.
expecting that. That was not even a part of what I planned for the portal. It was purely just going to be classes, video classes and downloads.
Yeah.
Like the community side of things wasn't even, I thought it'd be part of it, but it ended up being like one of the biggest parts of it, which is,
You can see like real friendships
yeah.
forming, and there's not
Mm,
like little kind of like cliques of people. It's not like that at all. It's like an
no,
actual family. And
it's
even
lovely.
when I first joined and I just kind of like flicked through and like I would just see like this real sense of community, I was like, oh my god, this is like a really lovely group of like, and most of the members are grown women with
Oh yeah.
kids,
Hmm.
other jobs, like really like amazing, inspiring women that just make you feel like, do you know what? There's nothing to be ashamed about with doing nails. Like, these are
Hmm.
business women. Like, it makes you feel so inspired.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I think what
Yeah.
you've built up with the portal is so, so good and so needed, because I was even a member in lockdown of the Nail Tech org, which
Mm,
amazing. And it cannot be, it's incredible, but it is very specific to, if you're a
absolutely.
nail tech org, obviously it would make more
Yeah.
sense. And so it did get to a point where I kind of had to leave, like through, I absolutely love everybody on there. I love the platform, but it just wasn't catered to press-ons a lot of the
No,
time. It was, a builder gel application, which now would make sense for me. But at the time I was like, I don't need that, like at
don't need
all.
it.
So,
Mm,
you know, that's where I feel like, having the portal, it is just so press on specific and exactly what the industry needed, because there was nothing like it.
no. Yeah, it's fantastic. Really, really proud of how it's come along. And it
Absolutely.
was
You should be so proud of
unexpected.
yourself. Yeah, and like all these good things are, I think sometimes the
Mm,
things that crop up in your career are some things that you've never really had planned when you first started, but they do just pop up.
mm.
And it's turned into like content creation as well. Like,
Yeah,
there's
that's
so
what
many
I'm.
avenues you can go down doing nails.
Yeah.
It's not just nails anymore.
No, that's something I've been doing, well, or, stepping into in the last couple of months, kind of almost by accident. It's something I had wanted to do. It was a goal for the year. And I actually had a feature on the Nail Tech org earlier in the year, and that was my
Yeah,
first paid for like content creation. I was like, oh wow, like this is
that's
really fun.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like so, I don't know, so different. Like I do enjoy content creation when it's not for my social media, because I just don't like the pressure of social media, but I love
yeah.
filming and like editing. I do love all of that. So yeah, I've been, you know, starting to do content creation for a few brands, which is, yeah, a very, very new venture. and very exciting and scary at the same time. But again, it's a new path, and like I literally am waking up every day with this like newfound like passion for what I'm doing. Though I'm still juggling everything else. So to say that I'm stressed is an understatement.
The to-do list will just never end.
It will never end. It will never end. But I would rather be busy and stressed with my own shit than to be working for someone else and they're making all the money.
Yeah, exactly. I think running a business is the hardest thing in the world, but there is nothing more rewarding.
Nothing.
It's like having a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hardest thing ever, but you know, when you go to bed, it's like it's all you can dream about. Like you've just had a really exhausting day with them, but then it's all you can think about when they're asleep next door.
It is exactly like that.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have it any other way, would we? Because
no, absolutely
you've
not.
got to love it. You have to love it. To be your own boss, you have to be passionate, and because you will never work harder. But the reward is that you never have that horrible, dreaded Monday morning feeling, and that is priceless. I don't think you can quite put into words. Never having to actually worry about going to work, like all the stresses. Don't get me wrong, like, and I definitely have started going grey, but it probably would have happened anyway. And at least someone else isn't just getting rich off of our hard work.
We all know that the hours that we've put in over the years, a lot of people would think we were bonkers.
Yeah.
But when you do something you love, you could even work more hours and still be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's stress, but it is good stress because you know you are in control of your own destiny.
I would say, Chelsea, like one of the things, and I've said this to other people about our friendship, is that I'm so grateful you welcomed me into this industry in a time where it would have been like, wow, there's someone new that is going to be a competitor. Like, you know, especially the fact that we're both from the UK and there was barely anyone doing it. And like from day one, you were just so lovely to me. Like,
I think I'd been doing it at that point for 3 or 4 years. And then when you entered the space, the thing is, it was like I started again, because honestly, like when you entered the press on nail industry, I knew I had to up my game. And I remember like the color changing nails just going viral, and like, my God, I was like, who is this girl? Like, where did it come from? But you were just such an inspiration to me, genuinely, because I was like, oh my God, like I now have someone else to look up to, because there was really no one else above at that kind of point.
At the same time as me, there were some other huge names, and we got to give shout outs to people like Christy, who is
amazing,
the absolute OG of luxury now. I was like, oh my Lord,
now it's such a different world, and especially since lockdown. But I feel like there is still so much room for new creators, but I feel like you just need to actually invest into your business and your vision and your designs more so than when we first started. Don't really like put out the kind of nails that we started out with anymore. You're not gonna get up to the same speed,
which is difficult because most of us are self-taught, or were to begin with, and so that level of skill is always going to be lower to begin with. And back then that was fine because people would still buy it, because we didn't have the level of like, you know, the access to so many amazing nail tutorials. All you got to do is go on your Instagram and you can learn how to create the most insane nail look, which didn't even exist, let alone was taught back then. So like that, the caliber is just completely different. And I imagine there's a big pressure for people starting out, because they, you know, especially if you haven't, you know, touched any of these products before and you're seeing all these people at that level, like that must feel quite intimidating. But on the other hand, it's like, well, yeah, but we took years to get to the level we are because we had nothing. We had to figure it out. Like we didn't have anybody to share information from. Like at best you would get like I used to trawl through like salon forums for people talking about like gel polishes and products like that, but it wasn't specific to press-ons. And this was like very, very basic information about like inhibition layers and like top coats and stuff.
Never understood any of it.
No, and like why would we? Because we were just learning ourselves, and because that there wasn't anything there, I think it took us so much longer to develop our skill sets in comparison to what people can now. Like that, they can zoom on up quite quickly because there's so much out there.
100%.
And the quality of the
definitely.
products now, oh my lord, like it couldn't be more different. Let's touch on why, because we're going to go into the history of press-ons and stuff, and I'm sure that will end up like that in the next episode. But the first one, we just wanted to introduce ourselves basically. The reason that I wanted to start the press-on podcast is that there needs to be some kind of a platform for people that don't feel like they've got a voice in this industry in other areas. And we know that this is a huge issue. A lot of us feel very alienated from the nail industry. It's not like it used to be. We're definitely becoming more welcomed and respected as the artists that we are. We have thriving businesses. We're incredible artists. We've set things up from literally nothing. We need a place where people can feel like, oh, I actually understand what these people are talking about, what they can relate to us in a way that actual physical in-person nail techs might not so much. Because at the end of the day, when we're a press-on artist, we are a product-based business. We're not all just about the service, and it's a very, very, very different industry. And with that comes like a real steep learning curve. Like, not only are you figuring out how to do the nail art, but you're also having to learn how to run a business and all of those many, many hats that we wear.
Yeah, very hard.
I just feel like, if we can have this platform to talk, like, so people can, one, know that the things that they're feeling as a small business owner or someone who's looking to get into this industry, they're going to be able to see that even us who have been doing this for so long and who can do most of this with our eyes closed now, it still is hard, and we still we can pass on our knowledge and support, because like it can be lonely. And I feel like in the last couple of years, since the influx of new press on artists, there has been way more of a sense of community, which has been great, because then we feel like we have just being able to like share this weird little world that we're in, the strange little problems that we come across all the time. Like, our friends and families don't get it, no matter what, no matter how supportive of they are, they're never going to understand. It's a really, really specific like thing that we do. And I think there's just a real there's something really comforting in knowing that you can just either listen, in this case watch, or jump into a DM with someone who just knows what you're going through. And it's also a place that we can give voices to other press on artists as well. That's definitely something we're looking to do, isn't it? Like, bring on people as guests and get them to tell their stories, because we all have different ones from all around the world, which is so cool. Like, that's one of the best parts of this, is getting to connect with people that what would you like, in what world would you ever make friends with someone from the other side of the world? But we all have, and like, that's just so cool.
We may have been doing this for like a decade, but there's still things that we can learn from other press on nail artists. I feel like this is going to be a really nice space, because we want to meet as many people as possible. We've all found friends through this community, and I believe that now is becoming like a real network, whereas it used to be very much like that's what I mean, you kind of like look out for each other. It's a bit too competitive, whereas I feel like over time you learn that actually coming together as a community and collaborating and treating other people with kindness is actually the better way to go. And we can all hold our hands up, like, we all suffer with different mental health issues, or jealousy, or feeling like we're not good enough and comparing yourself with other press on nail artists. But I feel like as well, like on your portal, you have like a little mindset section, and that's so important. Even for me, I love like watching things like that, because it keeps me grounded and keeps me focused. And I think like, no, like, I've got to believe in myself. I need to take breaks. I've got people that I can connect with that know exactly how the press on nail side of things works. Because like you say, it's so different than running a salon, because we don't really switch off.
Ever, no. And I think as well, and this is probably across the board, well, probably with anyone who's got a passion for something, but one of the hard things is that when you genuinely love something, you get this kick out of doing it. Like I could work all day every day and not feel like I'm working. And that's obviously a really dangerous kind of mindset to have, because you have to have a disconnection at some point. But it's really difficult because, like, you all of, not that I don't use social media for myself at all anyway. I barely use it for my business, let alone for myself. But like, if you're to go on there, all you're seeing is nail stuff. If you're thinking, oh, I've got a little bit of money to spend, what could I spend it on? The first thing you think of is nail stuff.
Exactly.
You breathe, you eat, breathe, dream nails, nail designs. Like, who hasn't spent like hours at 3 o'clock in the morning just buying supplies and thinking of crazy designs that you're never going to get around to doing? I wanted to say as well, like, a few of the other reasons, like, for why we wanted to do this, and anyone that knows Chelsea and I will know that we sometimes insert ourselves into things that maybe don't maybe we don't belong in, but we are very passionate about a lot of things. Now, this podcast isn't going to be like a great...
strong, stubborn women.
Strong, stubborn women. But we're passionate about what we believe in and what we see, and a lot of that can be problematic behaviors from people, brands. We feel like the podcast can be not just an outlet for us, but I don't know, a means to kind of, I don't know, hold a mirror up to certain elements of our industry to try and make them better. We need to use our voices because we do have some element of influence, and there are things that are just not on, and we're not going to go into them like in detail. We're not going to be like slagging off brands or anything, or people or anything like that. Like, people need to feel like they have a voice. I feel like more and more we're silenced, because if you say anything, you are like a hater or some of this nonsense. And maybe it's just because Chelsea and I are, I don't know, that I say we're a bit older. We're not. We're in our 30s. It's not like we're old has-beens, but we see things and we feel like, you know what, it's our duty sometimes to use our voice to call out people that are doing things that are wrong, or brands that need to do better. And we need to do that unapologetically, I think.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to have this conversation on social media, but they might only be voicing it on their Instagram stories, which disappears after a day. Whereas I feel like having a podcast, it is recorded, it is put out there, people can access it in a month's time, in 6 months' time, they can kind of come back to that conversation, and hopefully then it can be spread to brands, can highlight different discussions of what's going on in the industry. Because if none of you listening knew this about me and Jerri, but we used to be emo kids. So we know what it's like to get bullied. And like, we were those kids at school who didn't fit in, who, were being told to like go and die because we listened to My Chemical Romance. Like, we know what it's like to kind of be pushed out. We ourselves have felt harassed, kind of bullied out of certain spaces. We've not received the same platforms or opportunities as other people. And especially when those people are really problematic, or those brands are not doing the right thing, I feel like it gets to a point where, but we do have some kind of responsibility to try and advocate for these diverse groups that are not being seen. If we don't, it's never going to change. It's been far too long that the same people are getting the same opportunities. Like, of course their work might be fantastic and there's nothing discrediting that, but there are other artists from different races, from different like financial economic statuses and backgrounds, from different genders. Like, we need to start really like looking at who are brand ambassadors, who are getting free PR and stuff. Like, you'll start to notice, and obviously we will get into this in other episodes, but you will start to notice that it is like a one shoe kind of fits all kind of category. And we really, really want to try and fix that. And of course, we're not going to be able to do it on our own, but if we can just start talking about it, if people can start sharing that message, hopefully, fingers crossed, something can change.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like, well, maybe people might just think that is how it is and there's no point in complaining about it, and maybe just, for whatever influence we do have over however small amount of the world it is, it's like at least there's that unity. And we feel so silenced in a lot of ways in the world at the moment, and I know nails can seem so bloody trivial in comparison to like the way the world is, but this is our world. And you know, Chelsea and I are, you know, we are lucky in that we have had opportunities, probably because we're young and we're white girls. You know, we've had like so many opportunities that other people wouldn't have had, with triple the talent that we have. But we have, for whatever reason, built up to where we're at a point where we can have a few people listen to this. And yeah, together we do want to make change. We don't quite know how. This is why this is like, you know, this is step one, I guess. We want to have means to do something actually meaningful, not just have, you know, for as much as we want to have laughs and everything like that, and that definitely is an element of this, you know, we have to try and talk about things that might feel uncomfortable, and share our thoughts, bring on other people who can share their experiences, and like just voice what's going on, you know, without having to be messy, because it doesn't have to be messy, and we're not here to like make enemies with anyone or any brands, but saying that if we see shitty behavior, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be called out, and that's
exactly,
that's what we've always stood by, because we're all buying from these brands, like, right, like we're all spending so much of our money with these brands, or we're putting certain nail influencers on pedestals, and it's like, well, okay, but is that deserved? Are they doing right in the other areas? And if they're not, then we are allowed to say that.
Exactly,
you know,
and we
it's
shouldn't
fine.
be afraid to get blacklisted or anything like that, because whenever somebody does stand up, they're actually standing up for the right reasons. And most of the complaints that I've ever heard, they've been completely justified, and no one should feel villainized for saying that they don't feel represented because of their skin color. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Like, no one should be pushed out because they feel that way, like, ever. And 100%, when we have more guests on who can talk about actual personal experiences that we wouldn't be able to relate to at all, because they would have gone through, you know, different disadvantages or traumas, then we can kind of like we always said, like, then we can learn even more from them as well. So yeah, there is definitely going to be more to come. There's going to be more guests on, and we want to just really just use this first episode as just a starting conversation.
So I put a question on the Press On podcast Instagram, because I thought this could be a funny little feature that we do. I asked everyone, what's the most outrageous customer request that you've had? There have been some really good ones, but I thought this one was good. The request was to turn an ex's cheating messages into decals. And I did it. It wasn't me, it was someone else. Yeah, they did it for her.
And then did they show the nails to him?
I like to think so, but even I don't know. Imagine.
I love that. What's your most outrageous design request?
You know what? I have been trying to think about this, and I really don't have anything outrageous. There has been a few times that a lot of people have like asked for nails with their own face on, like as decals.
Really?
Quite a lot of people have their own face on decals, and like
I've
like quite
seen
glamour
before
shots as
people
well.
having their like, there's some people whose their phone case is a selfie.
Right.
And I love the confidence, but I could never.
I could only dream.
I'd be sick.
Literally. Yeah, so that has happened.
That is a weird request, I think.
It is, isn't it? Like it's literally been like quite a few people.
Wow.
I know. I mean, you know, no judgment.
It's taking vanity to a whole new level.
I know. I mean, I guess respect. Like, they don't give a shit. They're going around. They're confident. They're confident. What about you? I bet you've had some fun ones.
Well, one really stuck out in my mind.
Right.
The request itself, I didn't think it was outrageous till I heard the feedback. So someone had requested suggested, and this was a few years ago where I didn't even have that shape listed on my website, but they had filled in a custom request form for an extra long set of red press-on nails stiletto. So I bought the shape in specifically because I didn't have it. They wanted something literally like this long, so I didn't have that in stock. So I had to buy them in specifically, and I made them, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, okay, didn't think anything of it. This customer was in America, so obviously it takes like a million years to arrive. So maybe 3-4 months later, like, she'd obviously tried them all out as well, and I got an email with some feedback, and she said something along the lines of, I just want to let you know that I really, really love the nails, and my partner really enjoyed them too.
Oh, for God's sake.
And she sent a photo.
Oh no, not a wraparound. No.
It was, honest to God, holding his winkle.
Oh, what is wrong with people? What is
I
wrong with
only
people?
saw shaft.
Yeah.
But it was enough to gauge what it was. Like, unless it was a very hairy,
Unless it was a
messy
baby's arm.
it could be an arm.
It could be
But
an arm.
the message that went along with it, and then to know that my innocent brain has been like painting these nails, being like, oh, this is a nice shade of red, just knowing where that went.
I mean, maybe you should have sent something back.
Yeah, maybe I could have earned a bit more money out of that.
Yeah.
There have been probably some more weird requests, but maybe we'll save them. We can save them for other episodes as well, if we can rack our brains about them. There is so much that we can talk about. I just love that we have started now, and that we are on our way.
we are on our way. And the next episode is going to be all about the history of press-on nails, which is going to be exciting. So we're going to chat about literally where press-ons came from, how they transitioned over the years, like what's our experience of the changes within press-on industry, because they've been huge in the last 10 years.
Massive.
Couldn't be more different. And then like maybe even, okay, well, where do we think that could go in the future? So yeah, that will be out in a couple of weeks. So the way that podcast will work is that the intention that will be that we'll release one every 2 weeks. May not be on the same day every week, but we will do our best for that. Like Chelsea and I have both said, we are parents of little girls and we have businesses to run, and it is a lot. So we can't always promise deadlines, but you'll get it. You'll get it when it comes out.
Absolutely will.
Wow.
So
I thoroughly enjoyed this.
I have loved it. It's been so much fun. And thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening. We are obviously so grateful to have you here. And my goodness, if you have listened to the end of this means you're serious about starting your press-on nail business.
Make sure that you're following us. So Nailed It by Chelsea, Dippy Cow Nails, Press-On Portal, Press-On Podcast. You'll find us. You'll find us.
There's lots of pops.
Lots of pops.
Thank you so much for listening. And
Bye. Bye.